All right, everybody. Bills, Rams, Sunday at 4:25 p.m. Sal Capaccio here. It's always game day in Buffalo. A little Friday quick hit for you to get you prepped and ready for this game. Pretty excited to get out of the snow and cold of Buffalo, at least for a day and a half, right? And then come back to it. Not going to be too bad in Buffalo next week. And then, of course, another dome. It's kind of interesting. The Bills had this really big, kind of nasty, I guess. I don't even know if I want to call it nasty. It was certainly a weather event game, right? With the snow against the San Francisco 49ers. But then the next 2 weeks, it's a couple of domes they get to play in, one in LA and then in Detroit. Then they have 2 home games at the end of December, Patriots and Jets, then back to the Patriots for week 18. So enjoy these 2 domes if you're going there. And of course, enjoy LA if you're flying out. I know a lot of Bills Mafia is going to be in LA for this game. All right. I am talking to you now early afternoon on Friday, late morning on Friday. I had Sean McDermott on his weekly radio appearance on WGR Sports Radio 550, and I always ask him right away about injuries. And there's really good news on the injury front from Sean McDermott, and that is he said he is not, at that time at least, this was late morning on Friday, not declaring anyone out of the game. So obviously that's really big news and good news, considering Dalton Kincaid and Keon Coleman are probably the 2 names we're monitoring the most here. So let's go through what the injury report was on Wednesday and Thursday, because there was no changes Wednesday to Thursday. Nothing changed for anybody. Keon Coleman was limited both days. Dalton Kincaid limited both days. Quentin Morris, Taylor Rapp, and Curtis Samuel limited both days. Not only did Sean say he's not declaring anyone out, he said everyone will practice again on the 53-man roster. And that's what happened this week. So everybody's practicing in some capacity on Friday. They'll see how it goes. So leaving the door open for Dalton Kincaid to return to the field on Sunday. We'll see. Leaving the door open for Keon Coleman to ultimately come back on Sunday. We'll see where that goes. And I also asked him about Dwayne Carter. So Dwayne Carter's been on injured reserve, and he still is. He's been a full participant at practice this week. He is eligible to be activated by 4 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday. If they do that, they'd have to make a roster move. If they decide to activate Dwayne Carter, there's a number of things we could debate on who would be the odd person out, in that particular case. You could look at wide receiver with Jalen Virgil if Keon Coleman plays. I could see something like that. If Keon Coleman plays and they activate Dwayne Carter, what does that mean for Jalen Virgil? But he's been pretty good as a gunner and on special teams as well. Nicholas Morrow at linebacker. Now that Matt Milano's back. What about somebody from the defensive tackle spot? Quentin Jefferson, Jordan Phillips, because obviously I think, Dwayne Carter figures into what they want to do here going forward. And then one final update from Sean as far as injuries. I did ask him about DeJuan Smoot and, his rehab and how it's going. And he said both DeJuan Smoot and Bale Inspector are both rehabbing and around the facility. And we'll see where that goes. So the Bills, they're pretty healthy right now, and they're getting healthier as December rolls on. But of course, you hope that maintains where it is. And that includes Matt Milano coming back from last week. He gets on the field, plays 77% of the snaps. He played all but 11 snaps on defense. And those 11 snaps, every one of them were taken by Cam Lewis as the dime defender. So really, Matt Milano played all of the snaps except in dime defense, which means that they were comfortable with him being out there all the time, that there was not a true passing situation. Now, my guess is that first part doesn't change, where he's going to be on a first and second down, not true passing situations. But I wouldn't doubt that he is playing on dime defense at some point here, either this week or next week, going forward, especially against a team that likes to run a lot of things underneath. They're not super downfield explosive, the Rams. They have really good receivers in Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. We know that. But they're going to be a team that's going to keep it a lot like the Bills. So they're going to get it in those guys' hands. They're going to try to move the ball down the field by getting some run after catch, incorporating the run game out of the backfield, things like that. So I think that's going to be really interesting. So before we get into the Rams, I got a couple more things on them I want to get to, just on the roster itself and, where things stand. We know that, everybody's going to practice and injuries are looking good for the Bills. But on the other side of things for the Rams, Jared Verse, we'll find out later today if there's anything to this. Outstanding defensive end, really young players doing really great things early in his career here, rookie player for the Rams. He practiced in full on Wednesday, but then he was listed as limited on Thursday with an ankle. Does that mean he hurt his ankle in practice? We don't know. So we'll get an update from the Rams as of now. As I talk to you, I haven't seen anything on that yet, but we'll find out when Sean McVay meets with the local media in LA and then go forward with that. So that's the injury situation for the two teams. And of course, the big news for the Bills this week, the return of Micah Hyde. Comes back to the team, and he's going to be on the practice squad. It's really interesting. Sean said this does not change Wednesday. He said this does not change anything for the roles of Damar Hamlin or Taylor Rapp. We know they are the starting safeties. These guys have been very good. In fact, I looked it up today. The Bills are number 1 in the league, as they have been a lot over the last 5 years, very highly ranked in this category. They're number 1 in the league at fewest 20-plus yard passes allowed. They just don't give up a lot of explosive plays. Now, a lot of that is, and we've said this over the years, that's the system, right? It's what Sean McDermott does. It's what Leslie Frazier, them working in concert, did. It's what Bobby Babich is doing now. It's just the system that they play. They keep everything in front of them. And this is the type of game where you wouldn't expect a lot of that to happen anyway. But Damar Hamlin and Taylor Rapp absolutely have to get credit for being a big part of why that's happening. And I think Taylor Rapp has really exceeded, expectations this year for what a lot of people thought of him the last couple of years, playing behind Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer last year. And for Taylor Rapp to play the way he has at the level he has, he's been a very, very important player for them. And I think it just shows, another year in this defense and the comfortability. But how about Damar Hamlin? I mean, this is a guy that he just, at the beginning of the season, so many people were really upset that he was going to be the Bills starting safety. And how many times did we hear from social media at Sal Sports, by the way, you see it right there. Ooh, we're over here, this side. There you go. I could do that right there at Sal Sports on X. If you're watching, you just saw that. Maybe you're listening wherever you podcast. I appreciate it. If you're watching at Sal Sports on YouTube, I got a lot of it on social media at Sal Sports. And it was, well, it's just a feel-good story. What are they doing? They're just giving him this job. He hasn't earned it. Well, look, I think he earned it through the offseason, and we talked about it. I remember Matt and I would come on. Matt and I both told everybody here, Damar Hamlin's having a really good offseason. He's around the football. He's making plays. He's really fitting into this defense well, and that translated into the preseason. Then it translated into the regular season. And here we are in week 14, and Damar Hamlin is a very, very important part to the Buffalo Bills. All right, so let's transition that to Micah Hyde. He comes in. Sean McDermott says it doesn't change the roles for Damar Hamlin or Taylor Rapp. What does it mean for the role for Micah Hyde? Well, I don't think any of us would be naive enough to think that Micah Hyde couldn't be playing on this in this field for somebody. It would be Damar Hamlin more than Taylor Rapp, I think, but I don't think anybody should be naive enough, and I'm certainly not going to be, to say that, oh, there's no chance that Micah Hyde is starting over Damar Hamlin at some point. Maybe that happens, but I believe Sean, and knowing Micah the way he is, and knowing that he's here to help everybody and to help the organization, that I wouldn't doubt also that he just stays kind of on the practice squad technically, but also as maybe a game day elevation to help out to go on the field if they need him in this situation, or maybe he doesn't. I mean, really, since this happened on Wednesday, I've been thinking, okay, practice for 2 weeks, gets elevated 3 times, and you're allowed that. And then into the playoffs, he can be elevated an unlimited number of times, but he doesn't ever have to take a spot in the 53. Really, for the first time since Wednesday, I've been thinking maybe he doesn't even really see a spot in the 53. Maybe he just stays in the practice squad, and he really truly is a break glass in case of emergency kind of guy. I think it's fascinating because the reason I say this, talking with Sean on the radio program on Friday, he just really talked about Micah in the organization and how he's always going to be an integral part and a big part of this organization no matter what. He didn't really talk about him playing on the field. And I get it. Sean's not necessarily going to do that a lot. Like, he tries not to, he more than any coach I've ever been around, he does not put those kind of expectations on players and doesn't want to, kind of have that out there that, oh, you said this and now it turns out the other way. So I get there's that piece of it. But the more I thought about it, I really thought, hey, maybe Micah is here on the practice squad. He's there every day. And if they really need him, they'll play him. Because what does the safety room look like? What if are you going to, bring Micah Hyde up and not make Cole Bishop active on game day? You could do that, right? Again, he could be a game day elevation. He could be an extra safety, but there's only a certain number of guys you can make active on game day, 48, if you have 8 offensive linemen, which the Bills normally do. Cam Lewis is still a safety, even though he's the backup nickel cornerback. And we talked about this on It's Always Game Day, me and Matt this week. So I just think it's really interesting, with Micah Hyde and how this all develops. And it's a good problem to have, right? As the team goes forward, an extra guy here that really knows his stuff, knows the system. Guys are going to benefit from him. We'll see where it goes with Micah Hyde. I certainly don't expect him to play Sunday at the LA Rams. And then one more, personnel thing to talk about here is Deion Dawkins. Congratulations to him. Deion Dawkins named the Bills nominee for the 2024 Walter Payton Man of the Year Award. And, I've gotten to know Deion and his family very well over the last several years. They are so integrated and ingrained in Buffalo. They care so much about Western New York and the community. Deion has his foundation called Deion's Dreamers. He now has started his talent show where, the snowman and all those things that he brings to the table. He's such a personality. He's such a character. He was wearing the ski goggles on the sidelines. He just speaks to Buffalo. They signed him to a contract extension in the offseason. And one thing about Deion is, if you go back and think about, I know there have been fans who said, oh, Deion does too much of that stuff. And, that takes away from football. I think he's playing the best football of his career. I think Deion Dawkins has a chance of being all-pro this year. And part of the reason I say that is not because I think he's necessarily, I do think, but it's not just because I think he's personally playing some of the best football. But anytime you look around, someone's doing some breakdown on why Deion Dawkins has been great this year, especially Brian Baldinger, who joined Matt, by the way, on the podcast earlier this week. Go check that out. Brian Baldinger joined Matt Bove, and they talked about the Bills O-line. They talked about Deion Dawkins. I think Deion Dawkins has a very legitimate shot to be an all-pro this year, not just a Pro Bowler, an all-pro. All-pro left tackle, I mean, that is really, really high praise, right? So, we'll see where that goes. And, of course, Josh Allen has a legitimate shot, obviously, to be an all-pro. He might be the MVP of this league. But to do that, got to go to L.A., got to beat the Rams, I think. The more wins you keep stacking and, having good numbers. They don't have to be out of this world numbers necessarily, but they can't be disastrous. But obviously the Bills want to go to LA. They want to be efficient. They want to make sure that, yes, last week they win the division for the 5th straight year, but you go there, you take care of business, and you compartmentalize and get things right back to where they need to be. If you look at the LA Rams coming into this game, there are opportunities to throw on this team, especially deeper balls. They actually are they're number 6 in the league as far as most 20-plus yard passes given up, 41 in the season. The Bills have given up 24. The Rams have given up 41. So there's opportunity, I think, to throw on this team. The question I have is, do the Bills take advantage of that and say, let's do it? Because that's kind of not been the Bills' MO this year. It's not really been Joe Brady's MO. It's not been Josh Allen's MO. The Bills have kept things short, get the ball to their playmakers in space, let them make plays, run the ball, James Cook, Ray Davis. And I think they love to stay true to that. And if you do that and have that philosophy, but there's incomplete passes, now suddenly it's 2nd and long and it's 3rd and long. You don't want to do that. So I think it's kind of an interesting game plan for the Bills offense this week for how they want to handle, and go attack, I should say, the LA Rams. On the other side of the ball, I know the Rams have gotten healthier on the offensive line, but I think the Bills still have an advantage here from their defensive front to the Rams offensive front. And there's going to be opportunity, I think, to try to get to Matthew Stafford. And I think that's going to be a key to the game if they can do that. But they have a really nice running back in Kyron Williams, and he does a lot of different things for them. He's very good in a lot of different aspects, and that's going to be the key to the game, from their side of things, Kyron Williams, and, what he can do not only in the running game, but, out of the backfield in the passing game as well. Little history here, Bills and Rams. They haven't played a lot. These two teams haven't played a lot. In fact, 14 times. First time they ever played, 1970. Last time was 2 years ago, of course, the opener in LA. Back on September 8th, 2022, the Bills won that game 31-10. The Bills have won the last 3 meetings. They won 31-10. Do you remember the COVID year? The COVID year, the Rams come to Buffalo and the Bills have a huge lead on them. What was the score at one point? Let me just check the score. I have the score. It was 30. The Bills were winning 28-3. 28-3. Wasn't that the Super Bowl score that the Falcons blew against the Patriots? And then all of a sudden, Rams score a touchdown. Goff, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Rams another touchdown. 4 in a row. They took the lead, 32-28. Then the Bills came down. They had a 4th down. Gabe Davis was held or interfered with. There was a flag, and the Bills wound up winning the game on a Tyler Kroft 3-yard touchdown pass with 15 seconds left, 35-32. That was the COVID year when Josh Allen really blew up. But, man, the Rams had a great second half and a great comeback after the Bills did a great job on them throughout the first half. Previous time before that, the Bills also won 30-19. That was a game that was played at the Coliseum in LA. If you remember that one, Nickel Roby Coleman had a pick 6. I loved that game. Little little anecdote for you here, a little backstory. That game, I've been the sideline reporter on the Bills radio network for 11 years. That game's the only game where I could not go wireless. So the reason was the Coliseum is kind of more in the downtown area. There was so much interference on the wireless frequencies. They had to plug me into the wall and say, anytime you do a sideline report, you have to be plugged into this, to the box basically, for to not to get too technical. Anyway, so I'm on the wall, I'm plugged in. So I was roaming the field and watching what was going on. But whenever I had a sideline report, I had to run back to that spot, pick up the mic, and I had to talk into the mic that way, and I'd put it back down, and I'd go back. That was what happened in 2016 when the Bills played back in LA at the Coliseum. But this series goes back to 1970, and they've only played 14 times. What's the first Rams game you remember? I'll tell you what it was for me, and I don't remember all of it, but I do remember the end of it because it was a truly memorable game. 1989, the Bills played a Monday night game at home against the Rams. And speaking of comebacks, the Rams were up in this game 13-9, and then they were up 20-16 after a Flipper Anderson. That's right, Flipper Anderson. Used to love Flipper Anderson. Flipper Anderson, a 78-yard pass from Jim Everett. The most notable part about this game was Frank Reich was the starting quarterback for the Bills, not Jim Kelly. This was the comeback before the comeback. So there's the famous comeback game, of course, from Frank Reich, right? But in 1989, Frank Reich got the ball back for the Bills with very little time left. There might have been a couple minutes, I think. I think maybe it wasn't like 30 seconds or anything like that. The Bills were down 20-16, goes down the field. He hits Andre Reed for an 8-yard touchdown pass. The Bills wind up completing the comeback and winning the game. That was a Monday night game. And that was like, oh my God, look at this. The Bills and this big comeback in 89. And they'd already gone to the AFC Championship game in 88. Kelly gets hurt for some games in 89, and that's the game. Wright comes in, has the comeback. Bills lost in the divisional round that year. That's the Ronnie Harmon game, drops the pass in the end zone in Cleveland. And then, of course, they go to 4 straight Super Bowls. But that's the first Rams game I truly remember. I don't remember the 83 game. They played in 83. That's what that would be Jim Everett, and that would be Eric Dickerson. Let me look at the box score. Who remembers this? 41-17, the Rams beat the Bills out in LA. Tony Hunter of the Bills, who they got from the Rams, actually, with Vince Ferragamo, right? Did they trade? Oh, they traded Tony Hunter, I think, for Vince Ferragamo, right? If I remember correct. Oh, Vince Ferragamo actually was the quarterback, not Jim Everett. Vince Ferragamo was the quarterback against Joe Ferguson. Who remembers this game? Not me. It was a 24-17 game in the fourth quarter, and then the Rams poured it on with 2 touchdowns and a field goal. They wound up winning 41-17. I don't really remember that game. I was a little too young. I was 10 years old. Whatever. Maybe I was, roller skating or something because the Bills weren't that good in 83 and, probably went out with my buddies or something late in the day for a 4:00 game. I say roller skating. I remember that because true story. Had a friend who had a birthday party, a roller skating party at I don't even remember the roller skate name, the Thruway Mall in the Buffalo. And the Bills were 2-14 year. And my buddy had a 11th grade birthday party. And I just wanted to watch the Bills play. And even though they stunk, I missed his birthday party at the roller skating place to stay home and watch the Bills lose to the New England Patriots. But hey, that's because I was a big fan. So I'm saying maybe I was roller skating that day against the Rams. No idea. Either way, this series goes back, like I said, to 1970. Bills and the Rams, they played each other 14 times. And then let me just look at the other times they played. Then 1992, Bills win 40-7. That was, I think, the opener or the second game of the season at the stadium. Steve Tasker, a huge hit to open that game on special teams or early on in that game. I'm sure a lot of you remember that game. Bills also win in 95, 45-27. That was in St. Louis. So the Rams obviously went to St. Louis by then. Rams have a win here in Buffalo, 1998, 34-33. Ooh, that's a good one to kind of go back and remember in week 3. That's when the Bills, I think, started 0-4 and then ultimately, made it to the playoffs, actually. And then it's in St. Louis. It's home against St. Louis, 37-17. In 2004, the Bills win. That's when they went on that huge run at the end of the 2004 season. We're just tearing everyone apart. And the Rams were in their wake that year, 37-17 was the score. And then the Bills go to St. Louis in 2008. They win 31-14 before losing at home at the end of the 2012 season. I remember this one, 15-12. It was miserable. Bills were bad. It's the end of the 2012 season. This is middle of the drought, essentially. It's a rainy, cold day. That's December 9th. Actually, boy, almost what? That would be, 7, 8, or I'm sorry, how many years to the day there? almost 20 years, right? 16 years of the day that they're going to play this game. Bills lost that game 15-12. So since then, 3 straight wins for the Bills, and all of them, they've scored 30 points, 30-19, 35-32, and 31-10. The Bills also have scored over 30 points or more, I should say, in each of their last 6 games. 34, 31, 30, 30, 30, and 35 last week against San Francisco. Will that streak keep up? Bills, Rams, 4:25 p.m. All right. Bills take on the Rams, 4:25 p.m. Eastern time. After the game, Bills players, coaches, staff, radio guys, we're going to get on that plane, come back to Buffalo. As we're in the air, coming back to Buffalo, the Chiefs are playing Sunday Night Football against the LA Chargers. I did the math. I think we'll be able to watch like the first half or no. Now in the air, depending on how you can kind of get your internet going, you might be able to watch the game, but certainly follow along. We have internet on the plane, but it depends on how you want to do streaming and things like that. But I'm interested in that dynamic. And let's assume the Bills win. Let's hope the Bills win. And then should be really interesting coming back in that Chargers game against the Chiefs, because obviously if the Chiefs lose that game, the Bills will move into the number 1 seed. All right, we'll have a lot more for you after the game from LA. If you're going out to LA, have a great time. Should be really good weather this week. Have fun out there. I know Bills Mafia is going to be there traveling very, very well, as they always do, especially at a place like Southern California. Matt and I will be back after that game at some point. Matt will probably do a little recap after the game. Then we'll be back on next week together. In the meantime, thanks a lot, as always, to our producer, Mike Rabier. Thanks for listening wherever you podcast, and thanks for watching. The numbers have been great lately, and we continue to appreciate your support on the video side as well, at Sal Sports on YouTube. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the game.